Hello, everybody. Hold up. I can get this thing out of there. Oh, I'm back. Look at that. Cool. What's up, everybody? I am JP. I am coming back at you. It is 10:16 on my side of the coast. I have been upgraded with headphones for better audio listening capability. We are going to be doing a block of lightning talks. So the way this is going to work is I've got these lightning talks. They are pre-recorded. I'm going to be playing them, introducing who's talking about them, and talking briefly about the topic that they're about. If you have questions that come up from these lightning talks, we have the people who gave these talks waiting with us in the wings here. At the end, we will have time for Q&A. I'll be able to pull them up here on the stream, and they'll answer any and all questions that you can think of. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get in on our first lightning talk here. It's going to be given by Ashgar Takvi. It is called The Digital Discontinuity. A+ name, if I say so myself. Let's get them on up here on the stream and see what they've got to say, why don't we? Boom.
My name is Asgard Takvi, and I'm here to present the digital discontinuity. The coronavirus pandemic has limited our ability to retain as much involvement in activities that necessitate a social setting. For a lot of us in university, this includes sports events, executive meetings, and even stepping foot on campus. Luckily for our community, hackathons can be and have been put on virtually, even before our current situation. However, while the virtual option may be readily available for organizers, the actual logistics of putting on a digital hackathon after a line of physical events presents great challenges. Before I get into these ideas, I'd like to talk a bit about myself and my own experience. In 2020, I took over a legacy of physical hackathons that had been taking place on behalf of my college. When I took it on, I expected to continue the legacy as a physical hackathon like my predecessors, which turned out to not be the case. Our line of hackathons had been met with the digital discontinuity that I was charged with organizing. Without any experience running hackathons under my belt, I, like many others in my situation, ran into my first issue. Regardless of how talented you are, when you put on your first hackathon, you can't do everything alone. Finding some guidance is key. In that respect, I looked to my predecessors for aid, and while they were certainly helpful, they too had no experience running a virtual event before. This lack of understanding and guidance from predecessors was by far the most important issue that plagued my experience in running my event. In order to solve this glaring issue, I tried to become more involved in digital hackathons. I would enter virtual hackathons and participate in all their workshops and activities without even making a project, just so I could gather as much information as possible. It was like this that I got the idea to reach out to MLH and seek guidance from their representatives, who were quite helpful as well. This research and networking is the solution I came up with to combat this problem. Reaching out to hackathon organizers that you think did a great job is a good way to solve many of your own problems when putting on an event. So about the second issue. Between digital and physical hackathons, there's one major difference that becomes apparent once you put it on. A digital event will always have the disadvantage of not being able to retain participant attention as well as the physical counterpart. It's difficult to involve everyone in events and activities, especially as time goes on. But above all, it's difficult to keep people in the hackathon at all. Dropping off midway is a lot more difficult when you've committed to staying on location. If you're just in front of a computer in bed, you can close the computer and straight up leave. When I ran my digital event, I had about double the regular number of participants, with a few less demoed projects than previous years due to this drop-off of participants. Now, some of that may be due to our inability to keep people as involved as we would have liked, but this huge gap of participants to demo is something you need to expect, unless you have some A-list celebrity at your event. The way to combat this is to advertise to and accommodate more participants so that you can keep the demo rate high. Of course, having informative events and fun activities are important, but this drop-off will always exist. Another way of combating this is to open up the requirements for entry. For example, if you're running a hackathon for only high school students, you can open it up potentially to early university students as well. During my digital event, I combated this drop-off issue by taking advantage of one of the main opportunities of a digital event. I started advertising and opening up my event internationally. I advertised on my own, but also with MLH to get as much attention as possible on my hackathon from the international community. This resulted in many more participants and a demo rate that was about the same as previous years. We held workshops, activities, and panels the entire time as well, but that also exists in a physical hackathon and just won't make up the difference unless you put on something truly creative and special. But to ask that of all of you would be unrealistic advice. After running our event, we decided that we wanted to keep the engaging aspect of a physical hackathon, but having international participation was also just as desirable. To accommodate for both, the idea for my successors is to run a hybrid physical and virtual event. This is a great idea for people who have aspects of physical and digital hackathons that they enjoy. The main issue with this is that the organizers would have to keep attention on digital participants so as to not be overshadowed by physical participants, but also offer some incentive to attend physically for local participants. Hopefully it works out as well as we're hoping, and maybe I'll be back next year with a talk on hybrid discontinuity, although that doesn't really roll off the tongue as well.
Nice. You love to see it. Fantastic talk given to us here by Ajgar. I'm sorry I slipped on a banana peel there and kind of goofed up your name. Please forgive me. It's 10:22, but amazing talk regardless. Next up is going to be Sam Poda, going to be giving us a lovely little talk on bringing hacker culture to secondary schools. Look at that. All right, let's get that all up in the queue here. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's roll it, Sam Poda. How's it going, VJ? I hope everyone's doing good. Roll the clip.
Hello there, my name is Sam and I'm a secondary school student in Singapore. Today I'm going to talk about bringing hacker culture to a secondary school and the story of Innovation Week. So when I'm talking about secondary schools, I mean grades 6 to 12, so that's middle and high school in America. And Innovation Week was an event at my school which basically brought together students from all sorts of ages to get started with technology, making. We had a mini hackathon, workshops, an entrepreneurship contest, and much more. It was super fun and super rewarding to organize. So in 2020, we had 15 participants for Innovation Week. So it was a small group of participants. It was great fun, but we felt like we could get more people involved. In 2021, we had 107 participants, which was about a quarter of our school at the main event of Innovation Week. So we really put in the effort, and this is how we grew those numbers up to have more people. So the first thing was to stop talking about tech. And I know that at first sounds silly, but talking about tech in your market and your events kind of alienates a lot of people. So it can scare off newcomers, which is 99% of a secondary school. And it's better to instead focus on more tangible things that everyone can understand. So a great example of this was when we hosted a workshop on the Kahoot API. Instead of calling it the intro to the Kahoot API workshop or whatever, we called it Hacking Kahoot, and we focused our marketing on the end outcomes of the activity. As you can imagine, that was much more interesting for students, and that was actually our most popular workshop, so we had a ton of people come out and enjoy that. So running on from that, it's best to keep it fun and gamify activities. So that's going to keep everyone engaged and excited, and also make sure that people bring along their friends. So we really like gamifying these activities because humans naturally enjoy games and competition. So we've always found that it's a great way to get people started. Though make sure to make it friendly so that everyone feels like they win in the end. Some examples where we had a robot programming game and a mini competition where participants built the craziest machine learning model with Teachable Machine. So we just jazzed it up a little bit and made it a bit more fun. So number 3 is to be bold with your marketing. So school can have a lot going on. So be bold and stand out in the crowd. People don't like checking emails or listening to long assemblies. So you've really got to be bold. So what we did was we made envelopes full of stickers for every single student. So that when we handed those out on the first day, so we had all these things, and there was stickers and a welcome letter for people, so they knew how to get started. And at the same time, on the loudspeakers at the school, we had a sound festival going on where people could control the sound through these little boards that we put around the school, and they could like change the sound, make some music, that sort of stuff. And that really got people engaged, And just to add on to that even more, we had someone making an announcement every 5 minutes that it was Innovation Week. So that sort of stuff really got people to know about Innovation Week and to make sure that everyone was aware of what was going on. So number 4 is to create rituals to keep people coming. So ritual activities are great so that people maintain, as long as you maintain the novelty and people keep on coming throughout a week. For us, what we did was we gave out a unique badge and a couple of stickers at each event. So these were the badges. Oh, this one's the wrong way around. But these are the badges we gave out, and we actually had people coming back every day, participating in the activity just so they could collect a new badge, which was great. So it really kept everyone engaged. So lastly, keep everything relatable. This is just a general rule that we really stuck to in 2021 for Innovation Week. So make sure that everything is relatable to your target students. Making things relatable to pop culture and all encourages students who can't relate with the tech to still get involved. Like I mentioned earlier, 99% of secondary school students this will be their first time. So keep it relatable, and people relate things like pop culture to fun and that sort of stuff. So it just makes the whole event much easier to market, and you don't have to explain technical terms and have people get confused and doze off because all you're talking about is Node.js and Express servers. No one's interested in that. Keep it relatable. Tell them, oh, we're going to hack Kahoot. That will get people interested. So thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to give a shout out to my co-organizers, Neil, Edwin, Ash, and Diego. They're absolutely amazing. And if you are interested in connecting with me, I have GitHub with a load of open source projects, and I sometimes post on Twitter at Sam_Poda. GitHub is just Sam Poda. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful Hackcon. And if you're ever interested, feel free to message me on Twitter.
Nice. Good stuff from Sam. For the record, everybody who just joined in and may not know this, Sam is currently waiting in the wings for your questions. If you can think of any, you can't see him, but I can see him. He's very excited by this prospect. If you can think of any questions whatsoever that you'd love to ask Sam, feel free to type them on into the chat. We'll keep in track of all of them, so at the very end, we can answer all the questiones that come up at once. Very exciting. Next talk that we have here is going to be from MLH's own Emily Akers. She's going to be getting on up here to talk about advice on leadership from a former backpacking guide. I got to say, I'm clickbaited because I have no idea where this is going, and I'm real excited to find out. Let's get on into it.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Akers, and I'm going to share with you how my experience as an orientation backpacking guide has helped me in leadership as well as working in events. So a bit about myself. I am the marketing coordinator at Major League Hacking. So if you've ever looked at our social media or if you have gotten a newsletter from us, I am the friendly face behind that, and I basically help with the storytelling at MLH. But before I did that, I was a orientation backpacking guide at Penn State University for 3 seasons, leading on the Mid-State Trail in Pennsylvania and the Appalachian Trail, which goes from Maine to Georgia. So basically, I got into this because I have a passion for the outdoors, but I also was really nervous about my first year at university. So I participated in this program and loved it so much that I went on to take an outdoor leadership course, as well as to get my Wilderness First Responder certification. So during this whole experience, I learned a lot about working in groups and about being a leader and helping to facilitate a program. And when I graduated and I worked in events, a lot of the skills that I learned were super transferable. So I'm excited to share with you some of the things that I learned during those 3 seasons. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, it is very, very important, no matter what you are doing, to plan ahead and prepare first. Whether you are going on a hiking trip or you are planning a hackathon, it's important to know how you and your group are going to go from point A to point B. So what is your timeline? What needs to get done? And it is very important to know that if you need to adjust and adapt your plan, that is totally okay. And it's super important to work with your team to figure out how you're going to do that. Additionally, you're going to know that you're going to have to look at your surroundings and figure out how you're going to adjust based on the resources you have. Next, it is super important, can't stress this enough, that you need to communicate with your team. It's important to know how you show up to the table. So how do you work as a leader? Are you the cheerleader, or are you the person who wants to analyze everything and come up with a plan of attack? It's really important to note that. It's important to know how you deal with stress. Are you the kind of person who shuts down emotionally, or are you the person who gets really fired up? And know these things about yourself when you enter the room. How are you going to communicate? Are you being an active listener? Stuff like that. Very, very essential, and happy to talk about that at another time if you're interested. When you work on a team, you really need to figure out what people's strengths and weaknesses are and figure out how you can capitalize on those. So grouping people who work well together, as well as who have skills that will help them to, get their tasks done. So maybe the really extroverted people are going to be working in attendee management, and maybe that is the best place for them. But figuring out where people shine and putting them in situations where they can succeed is super important as a leader. Next, it is very important to know when to ask for help. I think a lot of the time we let our egos get in the way of that, but it's super important to know that these are growing experiences and you're learning, and there are people who want to see you succeed. So by going to your mentors, by going to your teammates and saying, I need help, you'll come out on the other side with more knowledge, more experience, and you also, a reminder that you're not alone, which is really important. One of my favorite sayings on the trail was definitely hydrate or dihydrate, which was our leader's way of saying, you need to hydrate, you need to take care of yourself. When you are working on an event or you are on a trip, it is very labor intensive. It is very physically and emotionally and mentally exhausting. So it's important to take care of yourself by resting, eating properly, taking care of your body, giving yourself rest, and making sure that your team is doing that as well is super important to make sure that you collectively succeed. One of the lessons that I learned that was probably the hardest is taking the views. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you spend so much time preparing for something and helping other people to succeed, you often have your head down and you don't realize the impact that you're having and the work that you've put together. So it's really important that when you're at that event to make sure you take a second, look up, and realize that you put together something pretty awesome. So definitely make sure to take in the views. And last but not least, make sure you're having fun. These are all great learning experiences and resume builders, but it's also important to, work with people that you enjoy working with, and to smile and to laugh, and to remember that, if you take a deep breath and you talk and you communicate and you work as a team, that everything's going to be fine. And you're going to look back on these things and you're going to, you're going to really cherish these memories. So make sure that you are also having time to just goof off and have fun with each other. Thanks so much for coming to my talk. And if you're interested in learning more about leadership methodology or leadership styles, I'd love to talk more. So let me know. Bye.
You'll love it. Really great talk there by Emily. You always love to see the sort of cross-discipline analysis on leadership techniques and things of that nature, right? It's always great to hear. Next up here, we're going to be having a talk from Eileen Chang that is titled Behind the Smile, which probably, in my opinion, gets a trophy for most sinister sounding talk of all of Hackcon. Pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure this is going to be a good old regular Hackcon talk, but let's see what Eileen has to say. Titled again, Behind the Smile.
What does it mean to be a leader? Is it just to be swept along by the traditions of the past and to maintain the status quo? By the phrasing of that sentence, I'm sure it's obvious that that's the last thing I expect a leader to do. But a lot of times, even if there are problems in your organization, it's hard to point out the system you grew up with and say, wow, that's something that needs to change, especially when it's in a way that's abstract and holds little weight in the priorities of the traditions in question. My name is Eileen Chang, and I'm a rising high school senior who is passionate about the gender divide in tech, and I'm here to talk about the need for empathetic leaders. I've been a bit of a black sheep in my organization, a robotics club, though this experience is every bit as applicable to hackathon organizers. Starting from my gender to the way I approached our club's environment, I was kind of different. But I didn't fully realize this, so for years I went along with the organization's focus on success, all things technical, and the disregard for vulnerability and empathy, and ignored what were considered peripheral social issues, such as diversity, community, and inclusivity. But at a certain point, I began to realize how suffocating the environment was. I felt excessive pressure to prove my worth, prove my dedication, and to prove that I was taking things seriously, on top of the fact that I was one of the only girls, meaning that I already felt like I didn't belong because of how different I looked and thought from the others. And as the stress built up, my cute mask, that smile I kept putting on, started to crack. I could no longer pretend that everything was alright. Even though the realization hit me, I was in no position to truly enact immediate change. Not that it would be possible to create empathy overnight. And it was scary to push for change. The thinly veiled hostility towards vulnerability made me feel panicked because I still felt like the freshman that sit on the outskirts, watching, wanting to join, feeling useless, feeling helpless, feeling scared, and in a spiral of negativity. But thankfully, because of how much I disliked the traditional social scene of the organization, I had unintentionally been creating a much more empathetic social standard in the young leaders that I had been working with. I also created different opportunities for our club members, creating the first Make-a-thon and boot camp, specifically for beginners in order to promote greater inclusivity and foster a safe learning environment, something that wasn't always available before. But these projects took me over half a year to bring to reality because of the open disinterest and lack of support for initiatives that had less of a specifically competitive focus, and shifting the standard for empathy took much longer. It's often a difficult battle, and mine is far from over, but it's one that we need to identify and work through in order to make our communities better places. As we're creating a more diverse environment, I can't really see that there's a formula for that, but please, take a moment to put yourself in a new hacker's shoes. How can your team make a young girl who is taught that computers are boy things feel welcome? How can your team make participants with physical disabilities feel comfortable and not like a burden? These peripheral factors can change someone's life. It can be the difference between someone never touching computer science again and a gateway for them to the awesome world of programming. And while they seem roundabout, some solutions are as simple as making sure that there are tampons and pads available in the bathrooms. A small gesture, but one that affirms to each woman that she is welcome. And so, while it's hard, we need you to look around and see how you can make a difference in the community that you serve. Coding transcends gender, race, language, and every other aspect that makes us unique. But there are so many obstacles that exist at the intersection of tech and identity that made it difficult for people to feel like they belong. Remember, you're fighting for everyone behind you. The young, impressionable students that attend your hackathon, the future leaders of your hackathon, and your younger self, who didn't have someone to stand up for them. So, to my leaders, it's gonna be scary to push for change, but we're all counting on you. Thank you.
Man, that was a great one, huh? Imagine being that young, delivering a talk that good. I think Eileen is definitely a rock star. Thank you so much for submitting that awesome talk here at Hackcon. We're going to get rolling here with our next one. Our next talk is brought to you by Pradnyaya Duse, and she's going to be giving a talk on how can my hackathon increase the employment rate? Good question, and let's find out, why don't we? Boom.
Hello, my name is Pradnya Desai, and I organized Girl Hacks for my university in 2020. Through this experience, I learned a bit about how integrated hackathons that invite both high school and college students to participate can help with creating more qualified talent in the tech world. This is a graph with data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it shows the proportion of STEM jobs that will be in natural sciences, mathematics, engineering, and computing through 2028. This graph shows that the majority of jobs in STEM, 65% of them, will be in computing in the future. And through this graph, one might assume that since there will be so many jobs in computing through 2028, many STEM students will elect to major in a computing-related field. However, the graph on the next slide paints an entirely different picture. This graph is also of data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it shows the jobs that will be available in various STEM fields through 2028 and the bachelor's degrees that will be awarded in those fields. It shows that the number of graduates who major in computing is less than the number of graduates majoring in engineering and biosciences, even though there are a lot more jobs in computing. This graph also shows that the number of graduates in physical sciences and biosciences exceeds the jobs in those fields, and the difference between the available jobs and awarded bachelor's degrees in engineering is not too much. But in computing, on the other hand, the number of jobs greatly exceeds the number of graduates. Therefore, if more people major in a computing-related field and have a qualifying degree, then they will be able to fill those jobs in computing. This will raise the employment level in tech. But how can we bring more people into tech? This can be done by introducing high school students to technology and computing so they're aware of the potential in this field. Integrated hackathons that are open to both high school and college students, can help with this. By organizing hackathons that are open to both high school and college students, high school students can learn what it takes to be successful in the tech field from college students and mentors in industry. They can learn how to build software and develop their problem-solving skills at an early age. This is one way of bringing more people into tech. However, it is difficult to organize integrated hackathons. Many universities have long procedures that need to be completed in order to allow minors on campus, and this can get tedious and overwhelming, especially for a first-time hackathon organizer. When we first ran Girl Hacks, this was the main reason we were not able to invite high school students to participate. I spoke to one of the organizers of another hackathon at our university, and this was an integrated hackathon, and I asked them what they had to do to invite high school students to participate, and the process at our university was relatively straightforward. They had to fill a form, have all students fill out a permission slip, and all organizers had to take an online course. This sounds straightforward, but depending on the setting and the university, the process can be a lot more involved, and a lot of legal questions of bringing minors to campus can come in. So starting a conversation and creating awareness about this issue and gathering resources to help organizers navigate this paperwork and this legal process of bringing high school students to college campuses to participate in hackathons can make it much easier for hackathon organizers to invite high school students to participate. It would help even further if MLH was able to provide this support to hackathon organizers. Having someone to help with navigating the paperwork and legal process, if it is necessary, will be extremely beneficial to organizers. It is necessary to introduce high school students to what it is like to work in computing. Integrated hackathons can help with this. However, organizers of such hackathons may need additional support to invite high school students to participate because of the paperwork involved, and creating more awareness and giving them this support can help bring more qualified people into tech and bridge the gap between the number of computing jobs and the graduates in the future. Thank you.
Nice. Fantastic jobs there. I've got some comments to make on that regarding the MLH side of things, but I will save them for the Q&A because we have got coming up here our last lightning talk for this block. This is going to be a talk by the wonderful Samvit. This talk is titled Young Hackers. Everybody get hyped for the last talk of the block. Woo!
Hey everyone, my name is Samit Agarwal, and I'm currently a student at UC Berkeley studying electrical engineering and computer science. And my talk today is called Young Hackers, and by the name you could probably tell that it's about younger audiences at hackathons, particularly high schoolers. Now personally, my MLH journey started my freshman year of high school, when I barely knew how to write a line of code, let alone develop an award-winning project in 48 hours. And naturally, this experience was quite intimidating. I was surrounded by people many years older than I was, and who had several times more experience than I had. However, after seeing some of the mind-blowing projects that came out of this hackathon, I was left not with a sense of defeat, but rather one of optimism and a goal of making such projects in the future. And over the years, I was able to achieve this goal at a suite of different hackathons alongside high schoolers just like me. Finally, we were even able to organize our own hackathon, WLP Hacks, catered specifically towards high school students. Unfortunately, the MLH community today is still largely devoid of high schoolers, many of whose skills and talents I can personally attest to. And I firmly believe that there is great value in expanding this community. And so today I'd like to share some tips and guidelines for hackathon organizers in order to make hackathons more appealing and welcoming to younger audiences, some of which I saw personally at hackathons and some of which my team and I came up with when organizing our own. Now, the first and probably the most effective tip I can give you is really quite simple: representation. If you want more high schoolers to participate in the MLH community, one way is simply to involve more of them in the organizing process. Now, admittedly for us in WVP Hacks, this was quite simple. We were all high schoolers. However, even if you are a college student, a great first step is simply reaching out to CS departments of your local high schools or getting in touch with high schoolers directly through contacts. Just asking them a few simple questions about their preferences in a hackathon can go a long way in helping you organize a more effective hackathon that is more inclusive of audiences. My second point is workshops. When I was a high schooler with virtually no coding experience, something that truly made a hackathon stand out to me was well-run workshops. Now, these workshops could be as simple as using Git or setting up a basic website. Workshops don't even have to be related to coding. In fact, workshops on general problem solving or idea generation could be invaluable to younger hackers looking to view the industry more broadly. My third point is diversity in tracks. By having a multitude of categories hackers can submit to or code for, hackathons can feel more welcoming to newer coders. In fact, even specialized categories such as Best High School Hack can go a long way in maintaining the competitive environment of a hackathon while simultaneously ensuring a level playing field for all hackers. Finally, let's talk about advertising techniques. Instead of marketing a hackathon as a complex, deeply technical event, instead convey the bigger picture, making projects that can change the world. You can even talk about fun events such as workshops or games. And of course, don't forget to mention the free food. By using these tips, I'm confident you can make your hackathon more appealing to high school students and younger audiences in general, and in turn expand the MLH community overall. Thank you for watching.
Nah, I feel like we had a good theme going this whole block, right? It feels like a lot of this block was more aiming your hackathons at like the younger audiences and stuff. I'm just happy that Somewhat finally had the courage to say, mention the free food. You know, I feel like that's an important step that maybe a lot of the rest of us missed. But for real, those were amazing talks. Everybody, we're going to be going into a bit of a Q&A segment. If there are any questionroonies that any of you can think of that you want to ask to any of our lovely speakers. As a reminder, our speakers were, in order, Ashgar with the digital discontinuity, Sam with bringing hacker culture to secondary schools, Emily with advice on leadership from a former backpacking guide, Eileen from Behind the Smile, Pradnaya with how can hackathons increase the employment rates, and Somewhat with young hackers. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, they are all here waiting in the wings, ready to answer your questions. In the meantime, because I am a rough and tumble guy, I'm just going to start pulling some of our speakers on stream here just to ask them some random questions that I can think of while you come up with some questions of your own. First one I'm going to magically call on here is going to be Sam. So I decree it. Sam, how's it going?
Hi.
How are you? How are you feeling?
I am feeling pretty good, thank you.
Awesome. So you go to secondary school Singapore, right?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. How much experience or exposure have you had to hackathon community / scenes in other regions?
So I've worked. I know quite a lot of people from other regions, so that would probably be the most exposure. Someone commented on the sticker wall. I just like to show it.
It is a great sticker wall.
Thank you. Yeah. So I've talked to people in the community before, but I don't have that much exposure. I'm cool. Yeah.
Dope. Yeah, because I guess my big question for you, and I don't know how well this question works if you don't have a lot of global perspective or something like that on the hackathon scenes. I'm genuinely just curious, what the Singapore hackathon scene is like. Is it kind of something that's relatively new? Is it are there big established events already? Where's it at sort of in that process?
Yeah, so there's I think there's one main established hackathon that runs at the National University. That's Hack and Roll. But with COVID and all, there are small little groups around that obviously you have. But with COVID and all, I haven't really ever got the exposure to be able to get involved because we have fairly strict COVID restrictions.
As you do.
We have Asia handles COVID differently to America, so it's a slow and steady going out. No Boris Johnson freedom days, but I haven't really ever got the chance to have that exposure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. But it's like it's super cool to hear that, like, you know, the hackathon scene over there seems like it's picking up steam, at least from my perspective. I mean, you don't get all those stickers without like you know, there being some hackathons to go to.
No, and there are more.
Oh my gosh. Oh, box.
And there are multiple boxes. It's kind of concerning. My parents are concerned.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all I really wanted to pick your brain about, Sam. So I'm going to go ahead and go pick on somebody else who spoke in this block. And
I'm going to disappear. 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye. Boom. Just like that. You know, it was a little bit of delay with that clap, but we got to work on it. It's me and Sam's like magic trick in the next show we're going to. Let's see. I'm going to pick on Emily next. Emily, boom. How's it going?
Hiya.
You know, me and you, we've never spoken before, correct?
Never.
Never, ever. We definitely do not talk on a daily basis.
We didn't have desks right next to each other.
We definitely didn't. No, that's not true at all. I guess a question I'm thinking of when it comes to your talk with just sort of like making the connection between like backpacking leadership and like MLH or like hackathon style like leadership and stuff like that. What was it that made you think of like backpacking? Because I know you also have a background in theater. Do you think theater has also like, like how many things have you had like leadership responsibilities in?
Quite a bit. Yeah. Like I did improv in college for 3 years, and I led backpacking trips at Penn State, and I also was like working as a contractor and like freelancer the last 2 years of college working in events. But I think, you know, obviously, like I had like much more like concrete notes of being like, oh, like I could talk about conflict resolution and I can talk about leadership styles. Sure. And I was like, wow, I did sign on for a 5-minute block, and there's no way that I can share as much as I want to in that segment. So I was like sitting here, like going over all my notes on like different topics I want to talk about. And I was like, you know what, I should step away from my notes and just think about like, what are the different stages that you go through in events and in planning a trip and leading a trip, and how do they overlap? And like, what are the things that like I really took away with me that I've incorporated into my everyday life? And I think that no matter like what community you're a part of, like, and I think if you're organizing for a community and you're doing community development, like you're really looking for the same things. You're really looking to create memorable experiences, to create meaningful relationships. And you're looking to, you know, foster inclusion and, you know, feeling of understanding. And like, I think that the ways that we go about doing that, while they may be like different, in like reality, like in essence, they're very similar. And I think that is kind of where I've learned to like draw conclusions. But yeah, like there's definitely a lot more I would have loved to talk about. And if anyone's interested in like learning about like, you know, the weird things that like I did take a full length semester course on, where we talked about like the power of body language, and like if I mirror my like your body language and then I move my body and I see that you subconsciously like mimic me, that means that you are now receptive to like what I'm talking about. You feel more like really weird like psychology like things that we learned about that somehow tied into like leadership. Like stuff was crazy, but really cool and like weirdly applicable in everyday life.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I think that's a great response. It seems like you certainly got a lot more experience than I do for leadershipy stuff. That's really dope. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go pick on somebody else. Emily, get on out of here. Boom. All right. Here, let's see. I'm gonna get something out of all of you that are here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be picking all of you. Eileen, you're the one I want next. How's it going?
Hi.
So I was thinking during your talk, because your talk was at like a pretty I want to use the word serious, but I just mean in terms of like it's a heavy subject, right? Sort of like inclusivity, diversity, right? And it's something obviously MLH has cared about a lot in the past. Something I personally care about a lot. Like inclusivity is just like a gigantic important thing to us at hackathons. And I know you gave some really awesome tips and just kind of like encouragement around like you should be willing to, tell your leaders to like make change, like push forward on stuff to make things inclusive. Can you think of anything that like, because I feel like there's a lot of you correct me if I'm horribly wrong, but you gave the one bit of advice around like making sure like toiletries are in bathrooms and stuff is like a good step on the way. Can you think of anything digitally that like people could be doing that's like sort of you think like that same level? Like I'll say like putting toiletries in a bathroom is like an easier thing, right? Like it's like a gesture. Can you think of anything like digitally that people could do on that front?
I think that one thing that pops to mind really quickly is like when we have a lot of Discord servers going on for hackathons, having I think Discord has like a pronoun spot. I just found out about it recently. I think if you have that in your server and you just like make it like a something that everyone fills out when they join the server, they first join the server, so everybody has that available and like uh, viewable on their profile as in the server. I think that would be really great because you can make sure that all these everybody who kind of feels maybe a bit more passionate about like their gender and like being very upfront about their gender and being clear about that. I think that would be like a really good gesture as well.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's like, it's one of those things that almost, it's just the existence of it makes everybody kind of know what they're walking into almost, I feel like, where they're just like, all right, cool. Like we're all like on the ball here. We're all trying to like be inclusive and stuff like that. And you're a senior in high school, right?
Right.
Man, that's super exciting. Are you do you plan on doing lots of hackathon-y stuff as you're going into college? Do you like already have your sights on stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm like thinking of doing a lot more hackathons this year. These past couple of years were a bit of a figuring out period because I've had a lot of incidents going to hackathons and different engineering things where I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in. So I wasn't able to, I guess, like reflecting on it, I wasn't able to really grow as much as a coder. So I'm kind of at a point where I feel comfortable with myself in this kind of environment, and I'm like learning a lot more about coding and hacking and all these things like that. So I definitely want to go to a lot more hackathons and just test out my skill and just grow more as a coder.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like I'm not sure how much exposure you've had to it already, but there's lots of like I know Girls Who Code do like meetups with hackathons and stuff like that. I do know that there's like traveling groups that try their best to make sure that like especially people who might be going to a hackathon for like a first time or something have people with like similar backgrounds that they can kind of like share experiences with and like be that sort of thing. So I definitely think that if you're starting to feel more comfortable with it, I would definitely encourage you to keep hacking. Don't just keep doing it forever. Awesome. Well, Eileen, it's been great having you. Your talk was really fantastic. I super appreciate you jumping on and talking to me for a bit.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Bam. All right. That's Eileen. I think that there's two of you left that I'm going to be cornering here. And the first one I'm going to get is definitely going to be Pradnaya. That's who it's going to be. How's it going?
Hello.
Let's think. I'm trying to think. What hackathon were you part of again?
I organize Girl Hacks. It's the hackathon at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. We have two hackathons, and this is the women-centric one.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. I wanted to make sure. I live about 5 minutes from NJIT. It is like out my window, and I can wave at it, and that is very funny.
Wow.
So like a lot of hackathons, I think, wind up in that sort of relationship, right? Where there's like the sort of gender focused like hackathon and then like a larger one. Is that like, do you have like a relationship with like the NGIT organizing staff or like the same organizing teams or like what's kind of the setup there?
So the bigger hackathon, we have various clubs at NGIT, like most colleges, and the bigger hackathon is organized by ACM. Okay. And our hackathon is organized by WICS, the Women in Computing Society. So we have different like organizers, but we work with the same NGIT management. So the university admin is the same, but the student organizers are different.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, that's super exciting. Dang, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think really hard, but it's getting pretty late over here. I don't want to just ask a really broad question. Do you have anything that you sort of are thinking about that you sort of want to like add to your talk after being forced to watch it again, which I know a lot of people don't like to immediately listen to their own voice. Is there anything coming to mind that you kind of want to add on to it?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned this in passing, but um, there was the theme of like bringing more younger hackers into the community, and I think that I didn't get to talk too much about it because of the time constraint. But whatever I talked about, plus the other talks, which were geared towards high school hackathons, bringing them together into the community, I think that that goes very well together with how we can get more people into tech in general. Because I didn't mention too many tips about how we can make our hackathon more inclusive for high school students, and we did that at Girl Hacks. For instance, like our hackathon was it was online for the second time we ran it, so we knew that like if someone came and it was their first hackathon and they saw everyone and they thought that everyone knew what they're doing, they might feel intimidated and just leave. So we had workshops which were specifically for high school students. We had team building for high school students and team building for everyone else. And if a high school student, they weren't forced to go to the high school one. If they felt confident, then they could definitely meet and mingle with other people as well. So having those kind of specific initiatives geared towards these students might make them feel more comfortable. We also had prizes like the Hello World prize for people who are first-time hackers, so that they feel encouraged and they're motivated to actually try their best. So yeah, that's what I would like to add.
For sure, yeah. I think making newcomers welcome should always be your goal at basically anything you're running, right? I think there's very few, unless you're running like, this is the championship hackathon only for veterans, anything else that isn't that, you should probably be making it really inclusive for new folks, right? Because like, I think also something people don't think about is getting people introduced to like technology or certain like career paths early can really change their life, right? Like it can really make them realize like, wait, this is something I love. And to give a really personal example, if you've ever seen the MLH Capture the Flag challenges, like I helped design them. And I've had like a surprising amount of people tell me like, oh, dude, that got me interested in cybersecurity and like I'm now majoring in it. And I was just like, what? Like, I did not think that this has some kind of impact. So yeah, like getting people into it, not only like is what you're saying, right? Where it's just like really great and like a good initiative. It's also like you can really change someone's life. Like you can really just like help them out a lot.
Yes, definitely. So many big ideas come from a hackathon. Like they
For sure.
build a small project and then they're like, we want to work on it after the hackathon ends. It becomes a great product.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for hopping on here, and I'm going to go ahead and kick you off. I know I'm so mean, but thank you very much for taking the time to chat. For sure. Last but very much not least, Oscar, how's it going?
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to say, you're amazing for being able to remember your questions. There are like 6 different people, and what is this, 50 minutes of however long this has been going on, so congrats.
You know, I'm so glad you congratulated me, so I feel slightly more bad when I say your talk was a long time ago, and I forget what my question was that I had in mind for you. Oh, wait, are you still with me? Your screen froze. Oh, no. Oscar! No! Oh, man, it's all falling to splinters at the last minute here. Can you believe it? I see Sam, again, you can't see him. He is off camera just laughing hysterically, and I'm not about it. I feel very mocked by him right now. Well, it's been great. It's been fun. Unfortunately, it looks like we may be having a little bit of a connection issue. I'll hit him up later. That's such funny timing. It's like I removed it from existence. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving these awesome talks. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you've got anything else to, whatchamacallit, any other questions that you can think of, drop them in the Discord. If you can't get a hold of them directly, I'll get a hold of them for you. We'll help answer your questions. But that's going to be it for this here talking vlog. Thank you again. So, don't end the stream. I'm chilling. I was never going anywhere. What made you think that I was going anywhere? But I will tell our guests who are, again, hanging out here in the back that they are free to leave at this point. Again, thank you so much for giving those wonderful talks. Woo! Asgar is still frozen in time. I can still see him. He's like, he's just stuck. Oh, man. All right. Okay. I am going to be hopping off here. We're going to be moving on into, I believe, slideshow karaoke, which is extremely exciting. So I'm going to be getting out of here. Hope y'all are doing great. I'll catch y'all later. Peace. This just coming in over the airwaves. It's not going to be slideshow karaoke first. It's actually going to be the organizer hangout. Oh my God, I can't think of anything more exciting in my whole life. Check out the Discord for more information. Never take anything you hear from me seriously, ever. I don't know why you did that. So again, should be organizer hangout. Check out the Discord for additional information. Should be announcements about it. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Peace, Rooney again, once more.